So picking up right where I left off, I am going to keep all of these outputs like they are. I am going to right click and copy this node, this graph, and I'm going to click on the substance and paste to create a new one. And then double clicking to make sure I've got the new one selected, I am going to remove all the extra elements and everything should be reset back to the start. So we're going to build some ceiling tile. Some fancy, ceiling tile you might see in an old time, like old town restaurant or building. So we're going to start with a shape, and we are going to use a disk. I'm going to set the scale to 0.3, and I am going to add a transformation 2D node and offset it to the corners. Then I'm going to build a second shape, and this is going to be a square, and the scale is going to be 0.98, which means it'll have just the slightest border around it. We're going to blend these two together, and we are going to subtract the foreground from the background, giving us an image like this. From there, we're going to get a bevel node to create our gradient. And the thing to notice about the bevel node is that if it's a positive number here, it's going to be outside of the original shape, and if it's a negative number, it will cut into the original shape, which is what I want to do in this instance. And let's go ahead and see what we've got here for our blend node. So something like this. So from here, we can use a curve node. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the values for start and finish. And what that's going to do is it's going to sink in instead of jet out. It's just a way to invert the colors. We wouldn't have to, but we can. So we've got this, and then we can take our nodes and we can begin to edit them. If we turn off this locked and unlocked selected keys, I can actually just move this one. So I can set it to a nice kind of curve like this. As best as I can, I should probably move all of these down quite a bit. I think I'll move these three up and move these two down. Okay, so we've got that curve node built, and you can build it however you want. Some of the interesting things to notice is that you can take an individual node like this and actually change the value here just on one axis or just on the other axis. And that can be useful to mess with. And if you find that you're not getting the kind of detail that you want, at least in terms of this beginning area, it's not a bad idea to double click on the graph itself and increase your quality to 2048, 4096 if you can swing it. But that'll give you a much better idea of what you're building. Okay, I want to build, we've got this line, and I want to build the area that is here. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the bevel and the curve. And we'll end up blending them as well. And so what we're going to do this time to the bevel is we're going to change the distance to a positive number, which means it's going to bevel the other direction. And so when we add both of these, if we change max lighten or min darken, maybe multiply? No. Aha. I am going to go to my curve, and I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to mirror horizontally. So it's going to give me the opposite values here, which is essentially just inverting the values. And then when I go to max lighten or min darken, what I get, is a value something like this. And then I can go in and have a very different curve. For my inner slope. Let's see, what do I want to do with this? I think I just want to have it curve nicely. I think that's what I want. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And then what I could do is I could probably build a node just a secondary kind of little bump right here. A couple other things to notice when you're going through this. What I want to end up with is a node that is this flat area here to not be so at the very bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this node down here at the bottom, and I'm going to hit delete. And that will actually curve it up to be flat at this position. And then I can increase this however I'd like to. And so this will come up to a center point and then stay there. And we can do the same thing to the other side. I considered bumping out this area, but it looks we're going to have a detail area in the middle of this tile. But I would much rather cut it in again. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this node for the curve. I'm going to set the maximum value to be slightly higher. So it's this one here. So if you look at the contrast and compare, this is dark gray instead of black now. Which means that this black area here is actually lower than this area here. And if I set this to 0.24, or let's set it to 0.25. Oh, I can even set it in. That's nice. I can then go to this other curve for the smaller circles, and I can set this to 0.25 as well. And so now this flat area is the same as this flat area as far as height goes, which is what I'm looking for. Okay, so finally, before we get to the next step, what we can do is we can go to a safe transform grayscale. And we can set it to tile by 2. And you can see what it gives me here, which is actually kind of interesting and not perfectly tiled, which I didn't really anticipate on. Oh, it's because of that black bar there. I forgot about it. If I change this scale to 1, does that go away? Ooh, yes, but it does other things that I don't care for, so let's set it back down. Always different a little bit every time. Maybe that's an issue with this being flipped. What if I were to increase this distance? Huh. Nah, I'm gonna leave it for now. Not too worried about it. Didn't appear like that the last couple of times I've done it, but that's okay. Okay, so now we're gonna build the center area, and we are gonna start with another shape. And this time it's gonna be that third pattern, which is a paraboloid. We're gonna use this with a gradient map. I'm going to set this gradient map to be like this. So this gives us a circular pattern that goes from black to black with white in the center. It just gives us a nice circle. And we're going to change the scale down. I guess it doesn't matter, does it? Because we're going to add a splatter circular. Make sure this gradient map exports to grayscale. And then we're going to change the pattern on our splatter circular to image input. And we are going to change the pattern amount to 6. I'm going to change the radius down to, I don't know, 0.15 to start. And then change the scale to, let's say, 3. And just start messing with it there. And so we can get this nice shape here. And then we can add this in to a blend node here like this. And I am going to try so if we use max lighten, we get something like this. And I'm going to move here and try to add my curve and see if I can get this to go in as a nice gray color. So let's see. First things first, what happens if I mirror this? Okay, so it digs in real bright, but I don't want it to be that bright. So I'm going to cut this down because I don't want to ruin the rest of what I'm adding here. Huh. Okay, so I get what I'm looking for as far as height goes, and I get it dug in here, and that is just gravy. The key to this was having the tile itself this kind of dark gray color, and the curve being a bright color, and then setting the blend to multiply. And that did what I wanted it to. So now I can edit this curve to be what I want. I'm honestly going to start out just as is, because one of the cool things I want to show you about it involves editing the gradient map for this. If we change the gradient, we actually get these curves here, if you can see them. And one of the coolest parts is adjusting this white to switch which side is steep on that curve. So we can get almost perfectly flat, and then we can skew it all the way to have the other one. And this is just a really neat effect, whether you want your star to be that way or whether your star to be that way. And I really dig the end result. So we can set it in the middle for now. We can change this to be wider or not so wide. And then we can go over here to our curve and just start messing with it. But it's already about as detailed as it's going to get. So if we select all these and made them linear, we can mess with it a little bit, but not too much. So that's not bad. I'm not unhappy with that. Let's switch you back to that and just kind of make you rounded. Let's switch you back to rounded as well. Yeah, that's got a nice little sharp line there. Sorry about that. At the bottom that I really like. So I'm going to leave it just like that. And then when it comes time to color it, I mean, honestly, we should just, color it white, call it a day. The ambient occlusion is probably way too steep. But then we can just go ahead and we can make it pretty shiny if we wanted to. And we could add an actual, maybe kind of a gold tint to it. Let's see, what are you gonna be? Maybe something more bronze. And if we set its metallic to be something, yeah, totally metallic, then we could get this nice bronze kind of look. Should probably go a bit darker on the color. And then maybe a bit more saturated. That's nice. That's real nice. And yeah, you can put this tile in a Unity project to make it look real nice. And anytime you want to edit it and make it, different, you can just go to your curve editor and change this value to something higher. and build something cool. All right, I'll see you in the third video.